The grand hall buzzed with laughter and chatter as the company's annual gala reached its peak. Employees from every department mingled over champagne and music. It was a night meant for recognition, to celebrate the company's success, its people, its future. But not everyone belonged to that world of glamour. In the far corner of the hall, wearing a simple gray uniform and carrying a mop, stood Daniel Miller, the night janitor. His eyes flickered occasionally toward the shining grand piano on stage, a stunning black Steinway that gleamed under the soft golden lights. He loved that piano. Not because it was expensive, but because it reminded him of who he used to be. Before life had taken everything from him, Daniel had been a musician, a pianist who once dreamed of concert halls and orchestras. But dreams don't feed children, and when his wife passed away after giving birth to their daughter, Emma, his world shattered. Bills piled up, the piano lessons stopped. And the man who once filled rooms with music now cleaned them in silence. That night, the employees laughed and danced, oblivious to the quiet janitor sweeping near the back. But fate has a strange way of turning jokes into miracles. The setup. "Hey, look who's here," the piano guy, one of the young executives, Jason, shouted with a smirk. Daniel froze, unsure if he should respond. Jason had seen Daniel looking at the piano earlier and decided to have some fun. "Come on, man, show us what you've got. Play something for us." A few people turned, giggling, expecting the janitor to embarrass himself. I shouldn't," Daniel murmured, glancing down. "I just clean here." But Jason persisted, clapping loudly to gather attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, our janitor tonight will bless us with some music." People laughed. Phones came out, ready to record the funny moment. The CEO, Mr. Thomas Grant, who sat near the front, raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Daniel hesitated. His palms were sweaty, his throat dry. He wanted to disappear. But then, through the crowd, he caught a glimpse of Emma, his little daughter, who had come to wait for him at the back of the hall. She smiled and waved, holding the small paper she'd drawn of him playing the piano. And in that moment, he knew what he had to do. The performance. Daniel walked to the stage quietly. The laughter softened into murmurs. Sitting down, he touched the piano keys with a trembling hand. They were cold, yet familiar, like an old friend he hadn't seen in years. He took a deep breath. Then he began to play. At first, it was soft, hesitant, like the whisper of a memory. But then, something beautiful happened. The notes began to flow with life and emotion, weaving together a melody so haunting and tender that the entire room fell silent. Every note carried a story, of love lost, of nights spent comforting a crying child, of hope that refused to die. The pain, the struggle, the beauty. All poured out through his fingers. People who moments ago laughed were now speechless. The chatter stopped. The only sound was the piano, and Daniel's heart beating through it. Tears welled up in eyes across the room. Even the CEO, a man known for his stoicism, found himself staring, motionless, his throat tight with emotion. When Daniel played the final note, the silence was deafening. And then, a single clap. Then another. Until the entire hall rose to their feet in thunderous applause. Daniel stood, overwhelmed, his eyes glistening. He looked at Emma, she was clapping the hardest, tears of pride streaming down her little cheeks. The aftermath. Mr. Grant walked up to the stage slowly. The crowd parted for him. You composed that?" he asked softly. Daniel nodded. "I wrote it for my wife. She used to say music could heal anything." The CEO's jaw tightened. She was right. He looked around the room. "I think everyone here just felt something real. Something we've forgotten in our chase for numbers and success." Jason, the executive who mocked Daniel, stood pale-faced in the corner, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Mr. Grant turned back to Daniel. You're wasted as a janitor here. Starting tomorrow, I want you in our media department, composing for our projects. We'll work around your schedule with your daughter. Daniel was speechless. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Thank you, sir." The CEO smiled faintly. "No. Thank you, for reminding us what passion looks like. The challenges." But life didn't suddenly turn perfect. Transitioning from janitor to composer wasn't easy. Daniel faced skepticism from coworkers who thought he didn't belong. The hours were long, and balancing work with being a single dad tested his strength. Emma got sick one winter, and Daniel had to juggle hospital visits and deadlines. Yet every night, he returned to the piano, his sanctuary, and played for her. Each melody he wrote carried pieces of their journey, hope, pain, resilience. And slowly, his music began to touch more lives. The company's campaigns featuring his compositions went viral, praised for their emotional depth. And through it all, Daniel remained humble. He never forgot where he came from, the broom, the bucket, the laughter. The turning point. Months later, the company organized another event. This time, Daniel was the guest performer. The same stage. The same piano. But now, the hall was filled with admiration, not mockery. Before he began, he said into the microphone, "Last time I stood here, it was as a janitor. Today, I stand as a musician. But who I am hasn't changed, I'm just someone who refused to stop believing." He played again, this time, a duet with Emma sitting beside him on a small stool, her little hands trying to follow his notes. The hall erupted in emotion once more. And when the final chord echoed through the hall, the CEO stood and said, to Daniel, "Proof that true talent and heart shine brightest when given a chance." Resolution and message. Daniel's story became an inspiration beyond the company. A local news station covered it. Schools invited him to speak about perseverance and the power of believing in yourself. He didn't become famous overnight, but he became something better, fulfilled. Every time he looked at Emma, he knew he had kept his promise to his wife, to give their daughter a life filled with music, love, and hope. And that piano? It was no longer just an instrument. It was a reminder that sometimes, what starts as a joke can become a moment that changes everything. Dreams don't die because we fall, they wait for the day we rise again. Daniel's story reminds us that no job is small, no dream is silly, and no heart is too broken to heal. Speech Balloon, tell us in the comments, what did this story make you feel? Would you give your dream another chance if life gave you one? Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe to Be Kind Always for more inspiring stories that prove kindness and courage can change the world.